So who is the greatest open-side flanker on planet Earth right now? I doubt very much whether we will all agree, because the field for the people that play in this position is absolutely stacked when you look across international rugby. There's some great players that haven't even made the top 10. I'm going to give you mine. I'd love to know what you think about it and what you would have picked and in what order. Leave the comments down below. That's just one way you can help spread the channel. Another way is just dead simply by giving the video a thumbs up. Help me find other rugby fans and let's build the community together. And if I haven't already, please hit subscribe so you don't miss any videos. Right then, at number 10, Dalton Pope. I like this guy. Big unit, modern day athlete. He's kind of an all-rounder, can do it all. He could play right across the back row, and there's a lot of players like this in the back row top 10s who can operate in multiple positions. I think that's the way it's going a little bit. There's less specialists and there's more generalists who can kind of do lots of jobs. And Dalton Pope, he can jackal, he can carry, he's a big hitter. 26 years of age, so he's coming into his prime, you feel. And, well, I think he's a guy that Scott Robertson will use a lot. Can he oust Sam Kane from that 7 jersey? We will wait and see on that one. There'll be other contenders too, but Dalton Pope I have got in there. At number 9, Lam Maro, the talismanic Italian captain whose team had an absolute stinker at the Rugby World Cup, and so Lam Maro drops down the top 10. He's just in there though. He is a brilliant leader, and he has been fantastic for a few years consistently now. And well, you just hope the wheels aren't coming off Italian rugby. They've had some good under-20s teams. You think there's more youngsters following Lam Maro through, who, like I say, still a young guy at 25. He will be leading Italy for years to come, you feel. He's kind of the heir to Sergio Parisse, and if he ends up being half the player Sergio Parisse was, he'll be moving up this list in the years ahead. Big year 2024 for Lam Maro. Francois Hougaard is at number 8 on my list. Now, the biggest compliment you can pay to Francois Hougaard is that they did not miss Anthony Gelonche when he was injured for almost a whole season. He was fantastic in last year's Six Nations for France, one of the players of that tournament. He has now lost his spot, or did during the World Cup, lost his starting spot to Anthony Gelonche, but is still a key part of the French team, and he would get into most other international starting lineups. He again can operate right across the back row for his club Toulouse. He plays 6, 7 and 8, but I think he's at his best when he's on the open side flank. As for number 7, Tom Curry, who at one point, go back 4 years, and he looked like he was going to be number 1 in this position for years ahead. He was world class. He's still exceptional, hence he's number 7 on this list, but he has dipped off from that form, partly due to injuries, and he's got another injury right now, which is going to keep him out for the rest of this season, which is such a shame. He's got 50 caps for England now, and he's only 25 years of age. If Owen Farrell, now Owen Farrell has taken his temporary, who knows, possibly permanent retirement from international rugby, I would have said Tom Curry would have been maybe the favourite to be the England captain. Obviously, he can't assume that role for the rest of this season, and I hope he gets back because he was starting to look fantastic again during the World Cup. We started to see him jackling, and he's bulked up, and he's a bigger man, and he can mix it up as a ball carrier as well. Love the way Tom Curry plays. He's at number 7. At 6, Sam Kane. And again, just to link to Owen Farrell, who I just mentioned, if there's one other player in world rugby that could sympathise and maybe might have got on WhatsApp and sent a little message of support to Owen Farrell in the last week, it might have been Sam Kane, because another international captain that has copped crazy levels of abuse, totally disproportionate when you actually consider what a good player he is. He's not Kieran Reid, and he's definitely not Richie McCaw, the 2 skippers that came before him. So it was kind of a poison chalice. He's always going to be compared to maybe the greatest player that's ever played the sport in Richie McCaw. And that's a tough place to be, but he'll be freshened up after a sabbatical in Japan. I'm sure he'll be back mixing it up for the New Zealand jersey, and that performance he put in the quarter-final against Ireland could for him be a career-defining performance. You certainly hope that's the one people remember and not the card that he got in the World Cup final. 31 years of age, he's still got some gas in the tank. Sam Kane, number 6. At number 5, Josh van der Flier, former World Player of the Year. He was in the World Dream Team last year. Hasn't quite been operating at that level, but still an exceptional player for Leinster and for Ireland, and another player that's a real all-rounder. He burst on the scene as kind of a kind of traditional 7, Jacqueline player, amazing on the breakdown, good support lines. He's a big defensive unit, and he carries really well now. And as he proved in a game during the Six Nations last year, he can slot in at hooker if he needs to. Love Josh van der Flier, 30 years of age, 57 caps, and it's going to be a good player that knocks him out of the Ireland starting team. I don't think anyone will for a couple of years at least. Into the top 4 then, and Marcos Kremer, who is an absolute beast. One of my favourite players to watch because he's just an animal. Hit after hit after hit. I mean, he plays like a blindside flanker. He wears 7 for Argentina. I know they play a kind of more left-right system than open and blind, but when I looked at it, he wears the 7 jersey a lot, which he also does for his club in the majority of occasions. Clermont now. He was at Stade Francais, was it, before that? But Pablo Matera on the blindside flank, Marcus Kremer plays on the open side, and just a very different, very unique kind of open side. Just a huge defensive player, huge ball carrier, 6'7", nearly 120 kgs, and he's only 26. He's one of those players that you definitely would rather have on your team than playing against you. Into the top 3 then, and Sia Kisi I've put at 3. I think that's the same position he was last time. What can you say about this man that hasn't already been said? Not a lot. The greatest leader the sport has ever seen. One of the finest human beings, and one of the best ambassadors rugby has or will ever produce. A incredible man who's done just amazing things. And the difference between the South Africa team, if you remember at the start of the Rugby Championship without Sia Kisi, and the team with him in it, the impact that he has is much more than you can measure in terms of what he does on a rugby pitch. And in fact, in terms of what he does on a rugby pitch, he was playing in the majority of cases for 45, 50 minutes. And then other players would come on and take that workload. But the impact he has on his team is phenomenal. And when you put all of that together in the melting pot, he makes the top 3. Just moves to Racing 92. They already love him, understandably so. Into the top 2 then. Lavani Bottia at number 2, who and just another beast of a player. 34 years of age, 2-time European Cup winner with La Rochelle, where he's been for years. And he used to, he like in the same game quite often for La Rochelle, he would play inside centre and open side flanker. An absolute menace at the breakdown. A wrecking ball of a ball carrier. Just one big ball of muscle is Lavani Bottia, and he was so fun to watch again at the Rugby World Cup. He is at number 2, meaning at number 1 in my open side flanker, again at number 1, Charles Olivon. I think he might be the most complete back row player in world rugby. And let me qualify that statement, because that's quite a big statement. I think, no, maybe Ardi Savia might be the most complete, because he also plays across the back row. I think any international rugby team on earth would start Charles Olivon. What shirt number he would be wearing, that might be up for debate. But I don't think what's up for debate is that he would be starting for every other international team. And I include South Africa in that. I include New Zealand. All of the big guns, they would start this guy. He is that good. For France, he wears 7. And, you know, as I've talked about, the role of back row players is changing a little bit. And players are having a more broad skill set. Charles Olivon, he has that support line, the support lines that he runs, the number of tries he scores by just being on the shoulder of Antoine Dupont or another player when they go through. And he's got absolute wheels and just takes it in from 25, 30 metres. He reads the game incredibly well. Fantastic line out forward, brilliant ball carrier, massive defensive unit. He can jackal as well. He can do it all. He's 30. So he'll be around for a little while yet, and he'll want to put right the disappointment of France during the Rugby World Cup. He's also, let's be honest, one of the most handsome men in world rugby. So he was on billboards everywhere around France during the World Cup. Now, that is my top 10. There are some people that aren't on this list. So let me talk about those as we look at the top 10. Let me jump out of the way. There we go. It's a pretty good list, that, isn't it? Got some movers. The top 5 is pretty much the same. Well, the top 6 is the same, but just different orders. Josh van der Flier going down a little bit. Olivier, Kisi, Bottiers up into the top 2. I'm pretty happy with that list. But there are players that are not on there. And I want to give a mention to Nicolas Martins of Portugal. I want to give a little mention to Manuel Ardao of Uruguay as well. Both fantastic players, had great World Cups. Don't make the cut for my top 10, but I wanted to mention them. And the other one I want to mention, Quagga Smith. I really was unsure what position to include Quagga Smith in. Blindside flank, open side flank, number 8. I have put him in my mind as a number 8, so you'll see him on the next video. Spoiler alert. Because he, during the Rugby World Cup, was most often found replacing Duane Vermeulen. In those big games, in the knockout stages, he replaced Duane Vermeulen every time. So if the South African coaches are replacing him for a number 8 as one of the, maybe the best impact sub in the world, well, the best impact sub in the world, they're replacing the number 8. So I've classed Quagga Smith as a number 8. That's a little teaser for the video that's coming next. If you don't want to miss it, you can hit the little notification bell. You can subscribe to the channel. Please do. Give the video a thumbs up. Tell me what you think about that top 10. And also, I'll see you on the next one, yeah?